As said, my skin is just super greasy at the minute, so let's put some makeup on and make it look a bit less greasy. The irony is absolutely hilarious. People don't actually realise that just because you've got spots doesn't mean you automatically have greasy skin. And the best part is the fact that my skin is actually dry. I have dry skin. Yes, it is possible to have spotty skin and have dry skin. I even get people telling me on a daily basis that I do not have dry skin. Are you my skin? It actually baffles me how people on the internet think that they know your skin better than you know your own skin that is literally on your own body. I have had dry skin and eczema on my skin before, to the point where I've had to use steroid creams for the eczema. So I promise you, I'm not lying. My skin is dry, and yes, it is possible for dry skin and spots to exist at the same time. Anyway, less of the negativity. I've just started by using a little bit of the Hourglass Skin, like, tint thing. What's it called? The Veil Hydrating Skin Tint. It's absolutely incredible. Literally looks just exactly like skin on top of your skin. Thought I'd use this as a little opportunity to show you how I do makeup on my skin, obviously to suit my dry skin, so that it lasts throughout the day without going like too matte or too dried up and cakey. I'm looking a bit crazy right now, but obviously it's all about the skin prep. So I've started with a really hydrating moisturizer and then gone in with my skin tint. Concealer I use is Huda Beauty, by the way. This is a really nice hydrating but full coverage concealer, which often don't exist at the same time. I'm looking like Casper the Friendly Ghost. It's time to warm up the face. I always get questions on why I use 2 bronzers and 2 blushes, and this will explain why. So I'm just taking some of the Curve Case by Made by Mitchell. This is in the shade Shady Business for my bronzer, and I'm going to spread that around my face because it's very pigmented. The first bronzer I use is always a cream, and this is because firstly, I find creams so much easier to blend than powders. So secondly, if you have that cream base in place already, then when you go in with your powder bronzer, it's just going to be 10 times easier, and you're also going to need to use less powder product, which when you have dry skin like me, the less powder you can use is obviously the better. Maybe one day I'll be prepared to sacrifice a face of makeup to show you what would happen if I just applied my like powder bronzer straight on top of my foundation, but today is not that day. I've got places to be today. Time for blush. I'm going to mix these 2 shades. By the way, this is the light Curve Case from Made by Mitchell that I'm using. Also, I just wanted to say I definitely haven't always done my makeup this way. I didn't used to use cream bronzer and cream blush. I feel like cream bronzer and cream blush have only really been a thing for the past like few years. I mean, in mainstream makeup anyway, like not just in artistry makeup. But it did just mean that I'd have to put powder all over my face before I could put the powder bronzer on. Otherwise it would just cling and look patchy and not be cute. A brand new powder to crack open. Also, I feel like by saying all this I'm making it sound like powder's the devil. Powder is not the devil. Powder is not the enemy. In actual fact, powder, specifically setting powder, is one of my favourite parts of my makeup and one of my favourite like processes, because it's just so satisfying and it literally makes the world of difference. But as far as I'm concerned, it just has to be used a little bit in moderation. So I'm taking some of that on my powder puff, of course. This is my trigger one, and then I'm going to press it into my hand so that I don't have like a massive clunk of powder and everything is distributed nice and evenly on the puff. Obviously just going in one last time to make sure there's no more creases underneath the eyes, and then straight in with the puff, and I'm going to set underneath my eyes using this. And I do almost drag that out right to the edge of my eye there, just because otherwise you get like a shiny patch and it kind of, you can see the line where the powder puff has stopped. And then I get in the crevice of the nose and down this line here, and that is all of the area that I set with the puff. As you can see, as I say every time, the difference is literally crazy. I remember I actually used to bake underneath my eyes when I was younger. No wonder my makeup always looked absolutely awful. I would take it on like a wet, was it a wet sponge or a dry sponge we used to use? Literally cake the sponge in powder and then let it sit underneath my eyes. And I mean, my makeup wouldn't move, but it would look horrific. So yeah, I feel like a powder puff and powder is a nice alternative to baking. You really get that powder on there, so nothing's going to move, but it isn't like too dry or anything like that. Basically everywhere that I've put the concealer, I am just gonna lightly set using a brush. This is obviously just gonna set things, but it won't be as matte as the powder puff would make it. Sometimes I do use my puff, but today I'm feeling a little bit more lightweight, and it still will sort of keep that slight luminosity to the skin in those areas. Makeup, as Patrick Starr says, is not a one size fits all, and I spent so many years doing my makeup the exact same way as everybody else did it, just because I thought that's the way that you have to use products, and you just need to learn how to use the products to suit your skin type. So for example, with the baking, I obviously used to do that, whereas now I would never do that, and that's just because I've learned over the years that isn't the best thing with my skin. Time for powder bronzer. I'm using this one from Misguided Beauty. This is actually a brand new one, but I love this bronzer. It's the Instant Vapor bronzer. To be honest with you, I don't even know if they like actually sell this anymore, but I'm very light-handed with my powder bronzer. I literally just tap it over the areas where I've put that cream, literally just to set the cream in place and almost like re-intensify it the slightest bit, but I don't really rely on the powder bronzer for too much colour. Still, you can see the difference that has made. It is the slightest bit more pigmented and it's just set in place. And obviously when you're going in with the powder bronzer anyway, there is no need to go and put that extra layer of setting powder over your cheeks and over those areas. I know I mentioned earlier about how I would never put powder bronzer on without putting a cream bronzer on underneath. Sometimes, very, very rarely, but sometimes I will use a powder blush without using a cream blush underneath. Most of the time, literally just when I'm in a rush. And the only reason I do that is because if you see where my brush is going here on my bronzer, it sort of sets my whole cheek anyway, and then because I bring that puff underneath my eye, there isn't really a single area on my cheek that isn't set in place with powder, which is why I feel like I can go over the top with the powder blush and nothing moves and nothing goes patchy. Finally, some powder blush. This is just a Kylie one in the shade Baddie on the Block. And with this, I would also normally tap it in like this, but this brush I can actually go backwards and forwards in circular motions with, and it doesn't disturb the makeup underneath. It's a really good brush. It's from Morphe, the L'Oreal collab. Okay, then I'm nearly done with the base, but if you feel like your skin is looking a little bit too matte and you want to add some more glow back, you can always take an illuminator or like a really glowy blush, soak the product up on the sponge, and then very lightly over the top of the powders, you should be able to just bounce it in and it will add that life back a tiny bit. I'm pretty sure this is a hack that I originally tried because I saw Amelia using it, and the difference that it makes compared to the side where you don't have it, it's very, very subtle. You can obviously build it up, but it actually makes the world of difference, especially in person as well. You just look so much more like brought to life. And then speaking of bringing things back to life, obviously just need to set everything in place with some setting spray, and I literally do absolutely douse my face in setting spray. Obviously it just makes everything look a lot more like skin again and a lot less powdery. And if you have a lot more dry skin than me, something like the We Cherie mist and the Beauty Crop is absolutely incredible. Sometimes it's a little bit too dewy for me, so I like the Glow Milk mist. But yeah, if you have super, super dry skin that literally drinks any product, try the We Cherie mist. That is my makeup all finished. As you can see, that is how I do makeup on my greasy, greasy skin.